The morning Victoria Harland's $4 million Bugatti Chiron stopped working, 400 mechanics from 15 countries stood around it in silence. 3 days. Every diagnostic machine money could buy. Every expert flown in from Germany, Japan, Italy, France, South Korea, and 10 other nations. And not one single person could figure out what was wrong. That was the moment a blind man with a white cane walked through the front door and fixed everything before lunch. If you believe that real expertise has nothing to do with what you look like, please take 1 second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this today, subscribe to this channel, and drop a comment telling us where in the world you're watching from. Now let's talk about Marcus Webb. Marcus had not always been blind. For most of his life, his eyes were his greatest gift, sharp, precise, almost supernatural when it came to engines. He had grown up in rural Ohio where motor oil was as familiar as fresh air, and by his early 30s he had built a reputation that made other mechanics call him when they were stuck. He could look at an engine and know not just what it was doing wrong, but what it was about to do wrong. It was not a skill. It was closer to a conversation between him and the machine. He had a wife named Diane, who laughed too loudly at bad jokes. He had a daughter named Sophie, who was 7 years old and believed with absolute certainty that her father could fix anything in the world. And for a long time, he could. Then one February evening, a truck ran a red light at 40 miles an hour and took everything apart. Marcus survived. But the damage to his optic nerve was permanent. When he woke up 4 days later, the doctors spoke to him in careful, gentle voices that said everything without saying the word never. The world he had built with his eyes was gone. What remained was darkness, and the long, brutal work of figuring out what came next. What came next was hard in the way real life is hard, not dramatically, but steadily. He lost his job. Not because his employer was cruel, but because the insurance complications and liability concerns quietly became walls nobody wanted to knock down. The savings disappeared slowly. Diane picked up extra shifts at the nursing home where she worked, and Marcus could hear the weight of it in her footsteps every evening when she came home. He tried. That has to be said clearly, Marcus Webb tried with everything he had. He attended every rehabilitation program available. He learned the white cane with the focused discipline of a man learning a new language. And he retrained his ears to do the work his eyes had abandoned, developing an almost frightening ability to listen to machines. He could hear a misfire from across a parking lot. He could identify a failing water pump by pitch alone. His hands, always sensitive, became extraordinary, reading temperatures, vibrations, surface irregularities that trained eyes missed entirely. But none of it opened doors. Every garage he applied to found polished ways to say no. Every hiring manager shook his hand too carefully and promised to be in touch, and Marcus always knew, standing there with his cane, that they would not be in touch. The world had decided what a blind mechanic was worth before he ever opened his mouth. Sophie was 11 now. She was the reason Marcus got out of bed every morning. She would sit beside him in the evenings while he listened to audiobooks on mechanical engineering. He refused to stop learning, refused to let the darkness become an excuse, and she would ask him questions about engines, and watching his face change as he explained these things, Diane would feel her heart pull in 2 directions at once. Victoria Harland had built her company into one of the most prestigious automotive partnerships in the country. She was brilliant, driven, and completely fluent in the language of excellence. But she had never learned the language of struggle, the specific grammar of people for whom one unexpected expense can unravel an entire year. She simply had never been in the room with that reality long enough to understand it. When the Bugatti developed its fault, her response was exactly what anyone who knew her would predict. She called in everyone. 400 specialists. 15 countries. 3 days of work that produced nothing but an error code nobody could read because the diagnostic software didn't recognize it as a standard fault. The car would start, run for a few minutes, and then speak a language none of their machines could translate. On the 3rd morning, Victoria stood in that facility and looked at 400 people not meeting her eyes, and she spoke quietly, which those who knew her understood was far more alarming than shouting. That was when Robert Chen, the operations manager, made the most professionally risky phone call of his career. 2 years earlier, at an industry conference, someone had told him about a blind mechanic in Ohio who had diagnosed a fault in a Koenigsegg without touching the car, just by listening to an audio recording of the engine that had stumped for certified specialists. Robert had filed this information in the back of his careful mind and never expected to use it. Now he dialed. When he finally reached Marcus, Marcus was sitting at his kitchen table with cold coffee and a podcast about turbocharger design. Robert explained everything. There was a long silence. Then Marcus asked questions, precise, technical, specific questions that told Robert immediately that whatever the years had taken from this man, they had not touched the quality of his mind. After several minutes, Marcus said he would come. Quietly. Without drama. But with a steadiness in his voice that Robert found unexpectedly moving. Diane packed his bag that night with the focused tenderness of someone who understands the weight of a moment without being told. Sophie sat on the bed and watched, and when Marcus explained where he was going, her face moved through several expressions before landing on a pride so complete it could have powered the whole building. She told him she had always known he was the best. She said it the way only an 11-year-old can, with the total, unshakable certainty of someone who has never once doubted it. Marcus heard the facility before he walked into it. He heard the scale of the ventilation systems. He heard 400 people holding a particular kind of tension. And beneath all of it, he heard something else, a frequency, faint and irregular, that made him pause for just a moment at the entrance before he stepped through the door. When he walked in, white cane tapping a quiet rhythm on polished concrete, the room went silent in a complicated way. Not respectful silence. The silence of people confronting something they hadn't expected and weren't sure how to process. Victoria Harland came out of her office and stopped. Her face did something that very controlled faces do when reality arrives, wearing unexpected clothes. She recovered quickly, she always did, and introduced herself with brisk courtesy. Marcus introduced himself with a simplicity that was itself a kind of quiet power. He did not explain himself. He did not apologize for being there. He shook her hand and asked to be taken to the car. The crowd parted. Robert guided him to the Bugatti. Marcus stood beside it for a full minute in complete stillness, and the facility was so quiet that the ventilation system was the loudest sound in the room. He was listening. Then he placed both hands gently on the hood, not grabbing but resting, the way you might rest your hand on someone's shoulder. He asked for the car to be started. He stood with his palms on the metal, head slightly tilted, eyes closed. He asked for it to be stopped. He walked slowly around the car, fingertips trailing along the body panels. He crouched beside the front passenger wheel arch and stayed there for nearly 3 minutes, his head bowed, attending to something that existed below the threshold of what anyone else in the room could detect. Then he stood up and said, in the same calm voice he had used for everything else, that the problem was a micro-fracture in the mounting bracket of the front left active suspension actuator, which had created an intermittent electrical grounding fault sending corrupted data to the engine management system. The fault code was unrecognizable because it was a combination failure, 2 linked systems failing in sequence, not a single component issue. The bracket needed full replacement. The grounding needed to be re-established with a specific gauge wire. The car would be running within 2 hours. The silence that followed was the silence of reckoning. Then the room began to move, not the frustrated, circular movement of the past 3 days, but the clean, directed movement of people who finally knew exactly what they were doing. Technicians pulled schematics. Someone went for the replacement part. And the momentum of 400 people, properly pointed, is an extraordinary thing to witness. Victoria Harland walked toward Marcus slowly, slower than her usual pace, which those who knew her understood meant she was thinking with unusual seriousness. She stopped beside him and said that before anything else, she owed him an apology. She said that when he had walked through the door, she had looked at the cane and the clothes and everything that didn't match the picture in her head of what expertise was supposed to look like, and she had made a judgment she was ashamed of now. She said it plainly, without softening it, which was perhaps the most honest thing she had said to another person in years. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he said he appreciated her saying it. Without bitterness. Without anger. He said he had learned that the way people see you is usually more about what they're afraid of than what you actually are. And that the job of someone who's been underestimated is not to be angry, though the anger is fair, but to simply go ahead and do the thing, and let the evidence speak. Victoria Harland created a new position on the spot. Director of Specialist Diagnostics. It did not exist in the company before that morning. It existed by lunch. The Bugatti started clean. The sound it made rolling through that facility was met with applause that began near the car and spread until 400 people in a room built for machines were making a sound that belongs entirely to human beings who have just witnessed something worth witnessing. Marcus stood with his cane in his hand and his head slightly raised and his eyes closed, listening to the engine he had healed. And he smiled, the smile of a man who had traveled a very long road back to the thing he loved, and had finally, completely, arrived. If this story moved something in you today, please like this video and share it with someone who needs it. Comment below with one word describing how you feel right now, because every single comment reminds someone else that they are not watching alone. And subscribe to this channel, because stories like this one are why we're here.